Welcome to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered, the podcast where we say the things everyone else whispers, feels, or pretends they're totally fine about. Around here, nothing is too awkward, too messy, or too, oh my god, did she really just say that? Yes, I did. This is your space where real talk, real stories, real emotions, and the kind of honesty that makes you laugh, cry, and heal a little. Sometimes all at once. So grab your drink, get comfy, and let's dive in. Because life's too short to sugarcoat it, and I'm not here to do that anyway. Welcome to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Let's get into it. Alrighty. Hey everybody, welcome back to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Today's episode is one that really speaks to purpose, compassion, and showing up for others in meaningful ways. I'm joined by Matt, whose work through Panhandle Orphan Care is helping support vulnerable children and families in powerful, life-changing ways. Matt, I'm so glad you're here. I'm looking forward to hear your journey and what brought you to this mission and the heart behind of the work that you do. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Auntie Mel, I'm super excited to be on here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you, and I'm excited for this episode. I am a lost mom, and I cannot physically have my own children, so I'm definitely interested in the foster care and everything else that goes along with that, adoption.
Yeah.
I have had a similar lost mom on here that did foster and then ended up adopting as well. So
Wow.
it's a beautiful thing, but I know there's a lot behind it, and there's not always sunshine and rainbows either. So,
Yeah, that is for sure.
yes. For listeners meeting you for the first time, who is Matt?
So I was actually in the foster care system myself. I was adopted. And so, I'm married. I've got 5 kiddos. And I run this, I started this nonprofit. We were, we had talked about getting licensed at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew a young mom, and so CPS was getting involved, and so uh, they asked us to take the 3 kiddos, and so
Mm-hmm.
so we said yes, and at that but we had nothing for kids. I mean, I had one daughter that was married and one that was getting married in
Mm-hmm.
3 months, so I had nothing for a 2, 4, and
Right.
6-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And some folks just showed up. I mean, they asked us what we needed. Our church brought us stuff, and it was like, man, this is amazing, right? This is something that we should
Mhm.
the community should be doing.
Yeah.
A mom gets pregnant, and at church, that they have baby showers and diaper dumps and all these different things,
Mhm.
and they got 9 months to prepare for this kiddo,
Right. Yeah.
and foster parents get an hour. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so we did. I through the process, we ended up with permanent custody of the kiddos, and so I was like, man, I wanna bring stuff to foster families as they're getting kids.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't know anything about running nonprofits, starting nonprofits, or anything. I went to a few nonprofits in my area, and I was like, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to do this thing. Can I
Mhm.
can I work underneath you?" Well, again, I knew nothing about nonprofits, and so I didn't
Right.
I didn't know that nonprofits are very limited in how they spend their money,
Mhm.
and it has to directly correlate back to their mission statement.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, honestly, in the beginning, I was a little frustrated. I was like, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to do this thing. Like, all I'm asking is just to be part of your organization."
Mhm.
And again, like I said, I knew nothing about it, and so I got a little irritated, and I was like, "Well, fine, I'll just go start my own."
Right. There you go.
And yeah, and so we got our nonprofit status in 2017, and but our main thing is that when parents are going to receive these kiddos, again, they're not ordering a child online. They
Mhm.
don't have a clue who's coming and
Right.
how old they're going to be or what gender
Yeah.
they're going to be, and all the things. And so we do this thing called a placement package.
Mhm.
And so we get a referral, and we say, hey, the Smiths are getting a 2 and a 5-year-old, and so then we call the Smiths, and we say, hey, what do you guys need?
Mhm.
And so then we deliver it to the 26 counties of the Panhandle. So put that in perspective. That's the size of West Virginia.
Yeah, that's
That's
huge. Yeah.
yeah, they say everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Right.
But, when we say we covered 26 counties, it's a big area.
That is a
Um,
big area.
and so, yeah, every kiddo gets a suitcase, a Bible, a teddy bear, a book, a toy, and a blanket. But then after that, it's the every single one is different. They're customized
Mhm.
based on what that family requests. So
Right.
it could be clothes, it could be diapers and formula and bottles, wipes. I mean, you name it,
Mhm.
we've brought it to a family because and each placement package costs us about $430 per
Mhm.
child. So that they get a
Right.
lot of stuff in that
Yeah.
placement package.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome that you guys are able to do that, and
Yeah.
I think it's important, as you said, to kinda it's not always easy to get started with this. I
Yeah.
know personal experience trying to start a nonprofit for my, pregnancy losses and things
Mm.
like that, even getting this going, like, there's a lot behind it. You can't just jump into it, and
Oh,
as you
yeah.
said, it does get frustrating because you just kinda wanna work with others, but there's so many rules and hoops that everybody has to jump
Mhm.
through, so
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, like I said, I had no clue. I was like, "I'll just start a nonprofit. That
Right.
shouldn't be that hard."
Right.
My gosh, it was brutal. I mean, I
Yeah.
had to starting a nonprofit from nothing,
Mhm.
um, I worked
Yeah.
full-time in a career
Mhm.
while I ran this nonprofit up
Yeah.
until, middle of 2024. We
Okay.
finally gotten to a point financially with the organization that they could pay me a small, small salary.
Aw.
Um, we were able to take the plunge. Honestly, the Lord just spoke to me in the spring of that year, and it was a sermon on Jesus walking on water, and Peter's in the boat. And it's
Mhm,
like, "Hey, I wanna get out. If it's you, I'm gonna get out on the water and
mhm,
and then so he does, and then he takes his eyes off Jesus, and then he starts to go under, and then, and so I just felt like God was saying, "It's time.
mhm.
Get out of the boat,
Yeah.
trust me, and keep your eyes on me." And so, I did. Like I said, I took a pretty significant pay cut,
Mhm.
but, it's allowed us in the last couple years to really grow, and do more, and help more families.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome that you are able and you're at that point.
Yeah.
As we said, it takes a long time to get there, and you do have to
Yeah.
make hard decisions. You have to put
Mhm.
yourself first.
Yep.
You have to put decisions on the line that may affect your family, how you're
Mhm.
going to survive on your own.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things that people forget when it comes to these nonprofits is like
Yeah.
the people behind it. Like
Yeah.
they still have a life, they still have their jobs, they're using their own money and resources to get
Yeah.
things going.
Yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of times they're just like, oh, I don't want to donate to that charity or this or that because they think that people are just raking in the dough, but that's not
Yeah.
the case, though.
Not I mean, sure, there are some
Hmm.
nonprofits that's the case,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
most of mo and then I interact on a daily basis with a whole bunch of nonprofits in our area,
Hmm.
and, they're not getting rich.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I also wanna go back, you had mentioned how the foster families, they don't know the sex usually, the
Yeah.
age, what they're getting,
Mhm.
and a lot of times, as I'm gonna go back to my friend that I had on here that fostered, I think she got a 3 or 4-year-old girl at first, and they had her for
Mhm.
a while, and then their goal was to get an infant, and they got a call in the middle of the night,
Yep.
"Baby has been surrendered, we are gonna give him to you." They didn't know
Mhm.
anything about it, they didn't
Exactly.
have anything for a
Yeah.
baby. They
Yeah.
still had that toddler girl at that age, so it's
Mhm.
going from a single family with no kids to one with a toddler and then the newborn, so it's a
Yeah.
lot too, and it's an overnight thing, so
Absolutely, and, we try to be there within 24 hours of when the kiddos get placed because those
Mhm.
first few days are so chaotic.
Yes.
There's mandatory doctor's appointments. There's
Mhm.
paperwork, like no like unbelievable amounts of paperwork that
Yeah.
has to be done and all these things. And so the family having very little time to prepare and finding time in those first few days to get to the store to get the things that they need,
Mhm. Yeah.
it's tough. And so, we want to be there within those that first 24 hours and really allow them to focus more on connecting with that child than having to
Right.
worry about, do they have pajamas to sleep in tonight? You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so important, and that's so wonderful that you guys are able to do that. What, needs are often overlooked with children at first when they go into a foster care system or just the first couple of weeks or months in that transition?
And the biggest struggle for those kiddos is safety, right?
Yeah.
You know, we look at the situation that they're coming out of and we say, that was a terrible situation. You know,
Mhm.
they're being removed from the family for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And so that now there's nothing familiar. There's
Yeah.
nothing sounds the same, nothing tastes the same, nothing smells the same. Nothing is familiar. I tell people it's kind of like if you were dropped in the Amazon jungle naked, right?
Yeah.
Everything is scary and different, and I don't know these people,
Mhm.
and and so the most important thing is for that family to do what they can to help that child feel safe and
Yeah.
secure and
Right.
comfortable. And one of the
Mhm.
reasons we do a blanket is because it's soft and they're fleece blankets, they're soft, they're cuddly, and it's
Yeah.
something warm and sensitive in that first day or so.
Mhm.
And a
Yeah.
teddy bear,
Yeah.
again, it's just something cuddly to try to help that child feel safe, in those first few days, because you think they used to think, if I got a kiddo straight from the hospital, they're kind of a blank slate, and it's easier. But if you think
Yeah.
about it, that baby straight from the hospital has only known, even in the belly, in the
Mhm.
utero, that child knows mom's voice,
Yes, absolutely.
knows mom's heartbeat,
Mhm.
right? And so we've learned there's been a ton of research and learning around what happens in the very beginning stages of life
Mhm.
in the belly, and then, after they're born.
Yeah.
And so much happens during those first few months and few years that
Mhm.
really sets the stage for the child for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so when that child is taken from everything familiar and placed with these new people in this new place, and everything is scary.
Yeah.
And so yes, it's a good thing that they're not in that dangerous environment,
Mhm.
but it's still scary. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we have to think about what that child is going through, even though they're not in that dangerous place anymore. They're still
Mhm.
scared. They're
Yeah.
still nervous. They
Yeah.
don't know what's going on around them.
Yeah, I think that's very important that you brought that up because I could see people overlooking that part of it,
Yeah.
all the things, the material things that they need. You also need that support.
Yeah.
And as you said, that comfort, something that lets them know that they're not alone and that they have something
Yeah.
cozy they can snuggle up to. And like you said, even though they're coming from these horrible, dangerous situations, that was still either their parents or their relatives or
Yep.
whoever they were with, and that's all they ever known. So
Right.
they are, getting disconnected from all of that, and I liked your metaphor there, being dropped naked in the Amazon rainforest, like, that is
Yeah.
so true. They are so vulnerable and raw, and they
Mhm.
have so many things, and I know it's very important in foster care, that everyone gets therapy, everybody goes through all the
Mhm.
classes for that,
Oh, yeah.
and know that, like you said, the kid's just not gonna be a blank state and never have any issues or anything. Something's
Right.
gonna come up whether you got
Yeah.
them from infancy or if they were a little bit older, they still are gonna have those memories of their past or how they were made, so
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I mean, you know, we people need connection. That's like the
mhm.
most important thing. And
Yeah.
so when that connection that I have is severed, even though it's not healthy, it's not a good environment, it's still a connection. And now
Mhm.
I don't have anything familiar. In
Yeah.
our area, in the 26 counties, about 10% of the kiddos that get taken from a home stay even in the same county that they're from.
Mhm.
10%. So the
Yeah.
vast majority, they're not they're not even anywheres near anything that's
Yeah.
familiar, you know?
Right.
They're
Yeah.
they're not in the same school, they don't have the same friends, they don't nothing is familiar,
Yeah.
and that's traumatic in and of itself.
It is. Yeah. That is. It's would be very scary, and I can't imagine going through that. I'm thankful for, growing up with both my parents and
Right.
having my family, but I know there's so many different cases and situations out there.
Mhm.
Before
Yeah.
we go on to your podcast, how can people help with Panhandle Orphan Care? Of course, I will link everything,
Yeah.
but how could they get more information or donate to your cause?
Yeah. So our website is panhandleorphan.org. Any nonprofit, like you said, it's a business and
Mhm.
it has expenses. We have what we call these Moses closets. That's where we
Mhm.
keep everything that we give to the families, and everything we give is new. We
Mhm.
feel like that communicates love and value to the family and to that child.
Right.
Um, and so, everything is new. We've got these 3 Moses closets where we keep everything, but it's impossible for us to have in stock everything that we need. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
we're not Walmart.
for sure.
One big need is formula. We
Yeah.
did a placement package here recently for a foster mom, and the little baby got to their home, and there was a can of formula in the bag, but it
Mhm.
had half of 1 scoop of
Oh
formula
goodness.
left in it. And
Yeah.
so, like, they didn't even have formula. And
Yeah.
so we do formula a lot of times, but
Mhm.
the thing is with these kiddos, 95% of the time, they're on a very specific
Mhm.
brand of formula,
Yeah.
and you can't change
No.
formulas easily.
Yeah.
That is like, so many things are chaotic, like,
Yeah.
changing formula is a bad idea.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and so but I can't keep it in the closet
Yeah.
because I don't know what child is coming and what type of formula they're on. So
Mhm.
we have funds that we set aside to go and buy things that we don't have in the closet, right? And so
Mhm.
it takes funds to run a nonprofit. We need money
Nice.
to be able to buy those things that we don't have at the closet. So,
Mhm.
folks can set up a monthly donation. It comes out of their account. They don't have to think about it. $100 a month buys us all the clothes we need for one placement package.
Mhm.
$50 buys us a case of diapers, and $10 buys us an outfit every month.
Yeah.
And so, that's super important. We have an Amazon wish list.
Okay.
People can go on to our Amazon wish list, and they can just buy stuff on there, and it just ships to us.
Yeah.
That's a great way to help us get some of the things that we need. And we try
Yeah.
to update that list periodically to when things get purchased. We go in there and we get used
Mhm.
and we update them, things like that. So that's a great way to get involved too. And so they can go to our website panhandleorphan.org, and there's a link there to donate, and they can learn more about what we do and things like that. And that's a great way to help. Like I say, we need we've developed some ways. We were just going to the store and buying everything we need. Well, that's
Mhm.
expensive.
Oh yeah.
And so we developed some relationships with some places that take donations of new items from big companies like
Mhm.
Walmart or Amazon or Old Navy or Nike. We bought boxes of Nikes, 12 pairs of brand new Nikes for $70. I mean,
Oh
that is
wow.
just
Yeah.
crazy
That
saving.
is crazy.
And so we've found these ways to purchase stuff that again, it's new, but
Mhm.
it's maybe out of season, right? So
Right.
at the end of summer, they'll donate all their summer clothes to this place where we can get
Mhm.
them, or at the end of winter, they're gonna get rid of all that because they're not gonna store it till next
Right.
season,
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's a way that we've been able to maximize those dollars that we're getting in. We wanna be
Mhm.
responsible with them. It's people's hard-earned money, and so we don't wanna
Yeah.
just blow it. We try to do things that we can to stretch those funds as far as we
Right.
can. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that and going into that much detail.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'm somebody sometimes like technology is too much, but it's so good too in cases like this, those Amazon wish lists are so
Mhm.
amazing. I think those
Yeah.
are awesome because as you said, everything comes right to you.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that you need. People don't have to
Mhm.
guess what you need. They don't have to
Exactly.
figure out how to get it to you.
Yep.
I'm in Ohio. You guys are in Texas. I could
Yeah.
donate here right from Ohio and it would get
Exactly.
right to you guys.
Yep.
So that's
Exactly.
amazing.
Just come
Yeah.
straight to us. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and I live in a little rural area, and we have a lot of those oversell thrift stores popping up
Mhm.
where people are buying the leftovers from, like, Dollar
Exactly.
General and
Yep.
places like that and
Yeah.
selling them, so there is a lot of stuff like that that just gets thrown away or lost, and so that's
Mhm.
awesome that you were able to get some connections to take that, so
Yeah. It's perfect.
yes. As I mentioned, of course, I will link everything, make sure that you're connected.
Mhm.
You also host All Things Foster. I'm
Yeah.
assume, and I hate to say the word assume, that that stems from your own time in the foster care and, of course, Panhandle Orphan Care. But why
Yeah.
did you start the podcast, and what got you started into that?
So while I was still working in early 2024, I kind of came up with this idea. I was like, man, it'd be cool to have a podcast to talk about things with regards to foster care.
Mm-hmm.
And then later that year, after I'd left my job, I became aware of a survey that the state of Texas did. And one of the top requests for the foster families that they surveyed was a place to find out about resources that are out there for foster families.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, man, that could be a really great topic for this podcast that I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. And then the other part is that foster care is a lonely journey.
Yeah.
Um, people a lot of times they don't know what to say or what
Mm-hmm.
to do, so they just kinda pull back and they're like
Right.
or they're like, "I don't want my kids around those kids," or something like that, and so,
Yeah.
foster care is this really, really lonely journey. There's not very many people that do it, and they're super busy, and so a lot of times the relationships that they have just kinda
Mm-hmm.
get put on the back burner because 'cause they're so busy and stuff like that, and so we wanted to create a space where foster families could come to learn about resources that are out there, but
Mm-hmm.
also a place to have connection with other foster families. And so
Yeah.
we kind of take turns. One week we'll have a foster family on or a kiddo that was in foster care. Um, I'm going to record tomorrow with a young lady that aged out of foster care and had no family to lean on, and she just got kind of turned loose into the wild. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so we have folks on the podcast that talk about their experience with foster care. And then the next week we have a resource that's out there for foster families. And so these are the kind of the things that we try to accomplish. And then it's a place to tell the community to come to say, hey, come learn about
Mm-hmm.
foster care. This is what
Yeah.
foster care looks like. We have some wonderful and great stories. And then we have some really hard stories.
Yeah.
And so it's just we're trying to raise awareness for foster care and the needs of foster and adoptive families.
Yeah, that's amazing, and
Yeah.
I think that's so important, as you said, to show all sides of it, not everything's great all the
Yeah.
time, and, as you said, it's a very lonely thing. There's a lot of people don't understand what you're going through.
Right.
It's kinda similar to being, like, a lost parent, like, your
Right.
friends and family don't understand, so they either push away or they may
Yeah.
say the wrong thing, or
Exactly.
as, you brought up a good point, other families don't know where those kids came from or what
Mhm.
they've been through or kids act up and they're gonna
Yeah.
act out and do bad things,
Yeah.
and those other families are gonna look at them like, I don't want my kids around that, so that
Exactly.
is a really good point with that.
Mhm.
Which is so sad, but that's just, I think that's awesome too, like you said, to bring awareness that people
Yeah.
don't understand what foster care is or how it works or all the
Yeah.
things that the foster parents and the children go through.
And people say stuff sometimes and not trying to be ugly, right? We
Right.
were we were at church one Sunday. It was Mother's Day. And Mother's Day's a hard day. There's all
Mhm.
these conflicting emotions around.
Yeah.
I've got my mom and dad now, and they love me a lot, but there's a loss that I've gone through with
Mhm.
not having that relationship with my biological mother. So it's a hard day. And so they had a kind of a thing set up to take pictures, family pictures after the church service. And, one of my kiddos didn't wanna take a picture, and so we weren't trying to force him or anything, but
Right.
the lady that was taking pictures was like, "Hey, just be glad you have a mom who wants to take your picture."
Yeah.
That was hurtful, and again, she didn't set out to be mean or
Yeah.
ugly, she just didn't think about it, about the
Right.
context of what saying that would be, right? And
Mhm.
so, it's not to say don't say anything to foster families because you're gonna say things that you don't mean.
Right.
And foster families try to be aware of that. But
Mhm.
sometimes people say things just out of ignorance, right? Didn't
Yeah.
stop to think about what that might mean in this situation, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is. It's a lonely, difficult journey, even family members don't
Mhm.
even, extended family that aren't in the home, they don't they don't know what to do a lot of times. They don't I had a friend one time say that their parents wouldn't buy Christmas gifts for the foster kids because I don't know if they're gonna be here at Christmas, you
Oh
know?
my goodness. Yeah.
Right, and so, yeah, it's a hard journey, and it is, it's very alienating and lonely, and so,
Yeah.
that's a tough part, and so that's why we're trying to create a sense of community online with the foster families, and the feedback I get from my foster families is like, "Man, this is great, it's just great to feel connected with somebody that knows, what I'm going through."
Yeah, that's amazing, and yeah, that is it's so hard. As you said, people don't realize it when they're saying stuff like that, and I mean, I'm sure she didn't mean anything malicious by
Exactly.
saying that, but it
Yeah.
hits you in a different way that people don't understand, so,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've had experiences with that in my own journey, and it's just
Yeah.
like, they don't know that, but I have moments that have stuck with me still to this day that, I
Sure.
can't help but think about, and I'm like, "That person has no idea what they said to me that hurt me," so,
Right.
yeah.
Well, and it's like I cannot truly connect with and understand what somebody who has leukemia is.
Right,
I
yes.
I I I don't have that lived experience, and so I can't
Mhm,
really I can I can I can feel for them, and I can, try to support them, but ultimately,
mhm,
I don't have that experience, and so I can't connect with them in that way, and
right.
so foster families people don't understand what they're going through, and so, that's why we wanna create this sense of community around these families that are going through stuff.
Yeah. I wanna go back, you mentioned, you're gonna be speaking to that young woman that aged out.
Mhm.
I think that's another thing that people don't realize
Oh,
is,
yeah.
once you're 18, especially if you're still in the foster care system, you never got adopted or you
Yep,
found your family, you're just
yep.
kinda on your own once you hit
You're
18.
absolute
So,
right.
do you know any resources or do you think that area is getting better, or is that somewhere that still needs a lot of work?
In our area, there are some new support mechanisms, for kiddos that are aging out. In our
Mhm.
area, the gal that I'm gonna have on tomorrow, um, she was on here, a year ago. She was one of my first episodes, and
Mhm.
she's part of a program for girls that are aging out of foster care. So they provide housing, they, get the kids in school or help them get a job and a car and things like that. And so she's kinda coming back on to say, Look at how much better my life is today than it was a year ago."
Mhm.
Because of this program, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so there's a couple of those programs around our area and in some other places. There's nowhere near enough of those
Mhm.
places, so kiddos that age out, oftentimes, they don't have
Yeah.
anybody to go to, and so oftentimes they end up reconnecting with their biological family.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not. For the gal
Yeah.
that's coming on tomorrow, um, she did that. She was pregnant, and she was not with the father, and so she ended up connecting with her biological mother. and it was not at all a good situation.
Mm.
The mom ended up they were driving somewhere, and she was in a city where the only person she knew was her biological mom, and, and her mom got upset with her and kicked her out of the
Oh
car.
my gosh.
So
Yeah.
she's in another town where she knows nobody, and her mom just kicks her out of the car, and she doesn't know where to go. She doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Thankfully, a friend of a friend knew about this program here in Amarillo called Fostering Independence and was able to connect them, and they were able to get her from Lubbock up to their program here in Amarillo and things like that. And so, she was able to connect and grow and develop and be much better, right?
Mhm.
But it was it was a journey, and so that's a common story, where
Right.
kiddos age out of foster care and they end up connecting with some biological family. And listen, I'm
Mhm.
not hating on biological family.
Oh, yeah.
There are generational cycles that
Oh, yeah.
happen. So many kids that were in foster care end up where their kids end up in foster care because
Mhm.
they didn't have the connections and the support and things that they needed. Um,
Right.
and so we love and support biological family, and we do what we can to support them. But a lot of times there's a pattern of abuse, a pattern of uh, addiction, and things like that. And so when that kiddo ages out of foster care and they connect with that family, a lot of times it's not a benefit. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me I also have a lot of people on here that have been through addiction and things like that, and a lot of it's a generational thing, and,
Yeah,
your story made or her story made me think how beautiful it is that, she did unfortunately go through all of that, but she came out and now she's helping others, and she's a
exactly.
resource for other
Yeah, she
people.
works. She
Yeah.
works for that organization now and helps these new young ladies that are coming into the program be successful. I mean, it is a redemptive story. I mean, it is
Mhm.
absolutely. She's got her daughter. Her daughter is just healthy and supported and she's got this great relationship. I mean, she's doing so well. That's why she's coming back on
Right.
again because she's made so much progress in the last year
Yeah.
through this program. And so now she's helping other girls that were in the same situation that she's in. And so it's just such a story of redemption
Mhm.
and positive change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I reached out to her. I was like, "Hey, you need to come back on the podcast and tell people where you're
Right.
at now versus where you were a year ago." It's just a wonderful story.
Yeah, I love that, that's beautiful, and I don't even know her, and I'm so happy for
Yeah.
her and proud of her,
Yeah.
and that's amazing, and
Absolutely.
that's what I love about this and connecting with people and doing my podcast is, like, I have everybody come on here so they can share their stories,
Yeah.
so we can help one another and know that we're not alone and know that it is possible and you can make something out of yourself no matter where you came through or what you've been through, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
So on the
wonderful.
podcast, we have it's video and audio. So we're on YouTube and we're on all the major, Apple and Spotify and all the things. They could just search for all things foster. As a matter of fact, I think we're ranked number one on Apple for like foster care support. I think
Awesome.
I got a report on that like 2 days ago. So they can find us on all the major, podcast streaming apps.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I know this work is very hard and you're big into your faith, but how do you keep yourself in check while you're going through this? Or what self-care things do you do for yourself or your
Mm,
family to kind of take
yeah.
yourself out of that at times?
That's a tough thing, right? Because,
Yeah.
um, we wanna help these families, like, we love these families, and we wanna help 'em.
Mhm.
I had a really tough situation a couple weeks ago. This little girl was 4 months old, and she'd been placed with this foster home, and she had had her 3rd brain surgery the day before, and she had 2 broken femurs, and she just was, just and you're just heartbroken for this little girl. And so it can be a very
Mhm.
heavy, situation, and
Yeah.
so, I have a camper, and it's I'm in the Great Plains, it's flat, I mean, there any
Yeah.
tree that there is because somebody planted it and cultivated it. There's no
Right.
trees, you know? But the second largest, canyon system in the US is, like, 15 minutes from my
Oh,
house.
nice. Yeah.
And so I'll hook up the camper and go spend a weekend down there just trying to trying to unplug and just enjoy nature. I love going up to the mountains in Colorado. There's some
Yeah.
campgrounds up there that I go to a lot that are just beautiful and just it's just an you know actually getting out into nature
Mhm.
can be
Yeah.
very centering and very
Mhm.
soothing and restorative. And so
Absolutely.
that's why we bought the camper a few years. Oh gosh, it's probably been 7, 8 years ago because at the time I was working full time and trying to run this nonprofit, and my phone was on all the time. And so I bought this camper with the expressed intent of going places where there was no cell phone service.
Nice. Yeah.
'Cause I didn't have the personal separation and
Right.
ability to disconnect. So I had
Yeah.
to force myself to go somewhere for a couple of days where I couldn't connect to anybody,
Mhm. Yeah.
because it gets overwhelming and it's hard. And so, going camping and things like that, going trying to get out in nature,
Yeah.
I go to church, and do some praise and worship and some, getting fed with the word and things like
Mhm.
that. Those are big parts of my journey to try to not be overwhelmed when you're faced with so much struggle and suffering.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's so important, as you said, it's really hard to separate that,
Yeah,
especially that's your whole passion and your
yeah,
drive, but you
yeah,
have to take that time for yourself, and, I agree with you, nature is so healing, and that comes up time and time again, that's how I ground and reconnect with
mhm,
myself. I'm actually just started, going for a certificate to do forest baths and, like, journaling in the forest and, like, take people on little meditations,
right,
so in the forest, so I just started that because I love the forest so much myself, so it's just
yeah,
so relaxing to be able to get out there, reconnect with nature,
mm,
just pay attention to all the things around you.
yeah,
We all need those times for ourselves. We can't pour from an empty cup. And if we were
exactly,
to, frazzle out or just have a burnout, that's not good for everything else or the
mm,
organizations that we're
yeah,
trying to run.
yeah.
So,
Well, and something else that I work with a business coach, and one of the things he had me start doing, he created a journal, and, and so it starts the day with gratitude.
hmm
What things am I thankful for? And then some I am statements, right? Because,
hmm
um, I came out of I came out of a traumatic situation, and then I was adopted into a family that was abusive. And so you begin to believe a lot of lies about yourself,
hmm
right?
yeah,
And so by writing these I am statements every day, it's reinforcing that that I have value and am loved and things like that. And
hmm
so these I am statements really help me do that as well. And so then there's some opportunity for some prayer and some meditation and then planning out the day and things like that. But starting the day saying,
hmm
these are things I'm thankful for. And
right,
this is who I am or who I'm working towards becoming, you know.
yes,
Um, those practices are very beneficial for me
hmm
personally, and it helps, helps, and I've told lots of folks about this. It's called Anchor Points. You can order them online, and they're really geared towards helping start the day
hmm
in a good place. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I love that, and that's so important, we have to start in our mindset in a good place. If you
Yeah,
start off the bat, not even thinking about yourself, then your day is gonna be even more chaotic, and
yeah,
we are all learning ourselves, we're all growing, we're all healing through all the things that we've gone through.
yeah,
I know personally doing my podcast has helped me heal in ways I never expected, but,
yeah,
we still have all of our things that we have to work through as well, so
yep, sure, yeah.
absolutely. What changes would you love to see happen in foster and orphan care systems? We kinda touched on some, but are there some
Hmm.
other areas?
So, like in the Panhandle where I'm at, we
Mhm.
need about 100 more beds. Like I said, 10% of kids are staying in the same county that they're in.
Yeah.
Almost half of them, Region 1 is 41 counties of the Panhandle area.
Mhm.
So almost half the kids that come into care in our region, they're not even staying in the same region. They're going to Houston or Dallas or San Antonio, something like that, because we just don't have the place for them. And that's honestly, that's the issue across the United States. There's over 400,000 kids in foster care in the entire United States, and, many of those kids end up having to go to, like, a group home or a shelter or a residential treatment center or something like that because there's nowhere for them to go,
Yeah.
and then they end up bouncing. So they can only stay in a shelter for 90 days. So they'll be in this shelter for 90 days, and then they go to another shelter for 90 days, and then another shelter, and every time that they go through a major move like that, it's a 6-month behavioral and developmental regression. They go backwards
Mhm.
6 months.
Yeah.
And so is not that is not good for these
No.
kiddos. And so when they have to go from Amarillo to Houston, that's I mean, now the geography is not even
Yeah.
nothing is the same for
Right.
these
Yeah.
kiddos. And so and that like I said, that's a problem across the US. I would love to see more families be open to considering adoption, right? That's
Yeah.
a big part. And then between half and two-thirds of the families that get certified to foster care, they quit within the first year. And the number one reason they cited in this national survey was that they didn't feel support from their community.
Mm.
So we gotta do a better job
Yeah.
of
Absolutely.
once these families get licensed,
Yeah.
supporting them, encouraging them. You
Mhm.
know, start a closet where you're at and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I just wanna bring" maybe I wanna bring the dinner for
Mhm.
a week, that first week as they're going through all of this, right? Maybe they wanna start a resource closet where they're at and start bringing stuff to those kiddos as they're coming in. Oftentimes, I talked to a foster mom a couple weeks ago, and so the kiddo came to her home, and he had a trash bag full of stuff. And as they're pulling stuff out of the trash bag, dog feces is just coming out with it. They just threw everything away because
Yeah.
it was just all awful. And so, you know, maybe just bringing them a couple of outfits or
Mhm.
a teddy bear or something,
Yeah.
supporting the foster families as they're bringing these kiddos into their home. That's
Right.
super, super helpful.
Yeah.
And another way to get involved is a court appointed special advocate, CASA workers. CASA
Right.
workers are dedicated. They have one sibling group or one child that they're responsible for. And their job, they're all volunteers, but their
Mhm.
job is to speak up for that child in the courtroom. And so
Mhm.
they get to know that child. They get to go to the school and find out how they're doing in school and talk to the foster family and talk to the counselor and all these things.
Mhm.
And they get to know that one child of that sibling group really well. And
Yeah.
that gives them the authority to go speak in the courtroom to say, hey, this is how this child is doing.
Yeah. That's
And
amazing.
this is what they need
Yeah.
to help them be successful. That's a very, very important role,
Mhm.
and I will guarantee you, anywhere you're at, there are not enough CASAs, and so, that's a great way to get involved. There's so many
Mhm.
ways to get involved. Just Google,
Yeah.
how can I support foster families in my area?" And I guarantee you something's gonna come up.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that casa, so that's
Yeah,
very awesome. That's
yeah,
something that I feel that I would be interested or good at doing, so that's
absolutely.
something I definitely would like to look into, and
Yeah,
as you said, it doesn't hurt for anybody to start a closet and start collecting
right.
things, and as
Yeah,
we both said, there's so many things just getting tossed out or,
yep,
there's these thrift stores that have stuff for 30 cents but that were $30, so you can find
mhm,
things and
yep,
work with a lot of people are willing to donate and help if you speak up and talk to them about
mhm.
things, so
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Yeah,
Your work is so amazing, and I give you a lot of praise for what you do. I know it's not easy, and of course, you're fueling your pain and your trauma into something beautiful to help
yeah,
everybody else. And
yeah,
I think it's great that you came on and shared this side with everybody. I think there's a
mm,
lot of things that people don't realize with the foster care system,
yeah,
or how it feels for the foster care families and children themselves. So I really
mm,
appreciate you sharing that with us.
yeah.
Before we do our fun rapid fire, is there anything else that you would want to share with us today?
I don't think so. Just raise that awareness, just kinda
Mhm.
get those antennas up when it comes to foster care,
Yeah,
and just be open and willing to consider doing something. Everybody can
yeah.
do something.
Yeah, that's so true, and as I said, I'll make sure I link everything, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's so important that we all play our part, and,
Mhm.
that's another subject that comes up time and time again, a lot of times it's not gonna be the big people in Congress or the government, it needs to start locally, and things are
Exactly.
never gonna change if you don't take the local steps and we all help each other, so.
Yep, exactly.
Well, now we're just gonna get to know you a little bit more and wrap
Yeah.
things up after some serious conversation, so,
Mhm.
are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
Oh, I'm coffee. That's why my podcast is All Things Foster, a
Oh,
place
yeah?
for coffee, connection, and
Oh,
community.
nice, I
I
love
feel
that.
like somebody's told me this years ago. Coffee in the morning feels like a warm hug.
Yeah,
That's how
that's
I
true.
see it.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm a night owl.
Yeah,
I struggle getting to sleep.
yeah,
I get up at 6:30 every day, but that doesn't mean I want to get up at 6.
right, I get that. I like to stay up late myself. I have to
Yeah.
get up early, but I still like the evening and quiet times at night
Mhm.
too, so.
Yeah.
Favorite comfort food?
Ooh, Italian.
Nice, I agree with you on that
Mhm.
one. That's always my favorite, so. I think you kind of already answered this one, but beach trip or mountain getaway?
Mountain. With my
Yeah.
wife and I have this argument all the time. She wants to retire to the beach. I wanna retire to the mountains. So I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, babe, we'll do 6 and 6. We'll do 6
Yeah.
months on the beach and 6 months in the mountains," you
There you
know?
go. I love it. I'm both too, like, I love, like we said, the forest and the fresh air being in
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
mountains and the trees and everything,
Yeah.
but there's something about sitting on the beach with the sun and the sand as well. I'm
Mhm.
a
Maybe a
Pisces, so I
margarita.
connect to water, so, like, I get that, but that would be awesome to be able to live in both
Yeah,
climates, so
right. Yeah.
yeah. One word your family would use to describe you?
Uh, Probably loving.
Loving, yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. That's a good one. Do you listen to other podcasts? Do you have a favorite podcast besides your own?
I do. Several years ago, we were really struggling with our kiddos, and so I was desperate for some measure of help. And
Mhm,
so there's a foster and adopt Texas group. It's got several thousand people in it. And I just posted on there one day. I was like, guys, we're struggling. We need some help. Is there a place where do I go? And somebody recommended this podcast, and it's called Raising Kids with Big Baffling Behaviors. And Robin is an absolute expert when it comes to helping families navigate not only foster care and adoption, neurodivergence is what she calls it. So, a kiddo may have what's called PANS or PANDAS, or they might have
mhm,
autism or something like that,
yeah,
or they have a history of trauma. And
mhm,
so I'm an avid listener to her podcast, and she wrote a book a couple years ago, um, again called Raising Kids with Big Baffling Behaviors. And so we started. I read My wife and I read it as soon as it came out, and it was like, man, this is so good. So
mhm.
in our placement packages, we actually give them a copy of Robin's book
Oh, that's
because
amazing.
it is so powerful. And like I said, it's not only for foster and adoptive families. I mean,
Mhm,
if you've got a kid that's neurodivergent in some way, ADHD, right?
mhm, yeah,
That's a difference in the nervous system, right?
yes,
And so if if you're struggling with a big baffling behaviors, check out the Baffling Behavior Show with Robert Goebel, or read her book, Raising Kids with
mhm,
Big Baffling Behaviors. Just such tremendous. There's a ton of research out there, and I've read lots of books and listened to lots of podcasts. Um, the way Robin breaks it down is just so unique, and just such a good way to understand and try to figure out how to help kiddos that aren't neurotypical.
yeah, yeah, that's so important. I actually
Mm,
just recorded an episode on Sunday with a lady named Ruth. She got diagnosed with ADHD at
mm.
50. So
Wow.
yeah, she, was going back through all her trauma as a kid, back
Yeah.
in the day. Your parents definitely didn't understand that, it's
Mhm,
just like that's just normal.
mhm.
So I love that it's becoming more, people have resources now to understand it because a
Absolute.
lot of times like she still has her trauma from being a kid, and
Mhm,
her family giving her little nicknames because she was so hyperactive and things like
mm.
that. Like, no, it's because no one ever, helped her realize what was going on with her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you so much for sharing your story, your heart, and the incredible work you're doing. Not only
Absolutely.
through Panhandle Orphan Care, but also through All Things Foster, where you're helping create conversations that truly matter. Your
Thank
work
you.
is such a reminder that advocacy starts with compassion and that even the hardest experiences can be transformed into something deeply meaningful.
Mm,
I'll include all the show links so listeners can learn more, support Panhandle Orphan Care, and all things foster care. And to everyone listening, if this episode moved you, please share it. These are the conversations that open hearts and inspire action. This is Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered, reminding you that your story matters and sometimes purpose grows from the place pain once lived. Thank you,
mm.
everybody.
Thanks, Auntie Mel.
All right, friends, that's a wrap on today's episode of Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Thank you for spending this time with me and stepping into the real, the raw, the messy, and the magical, because we don't do surface level here. If this episode hit home, made you laugh, or helped you feel a little less alone, go ahead and follow the podcast and share it with someone who might need it too. And remember, you are never too much, never too little, and never alone on this wild ride. I'll meet you back here next time for more truth, more feels, and more unfiltered goodness. This is Auntie Mel Mel signing off. Stay real, stay kind, and stay unfiltered. Thanks for hanging out with me today. This is Auntie Mel Mel. If this episode made you laugh, think, or feel a little less alone, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Sharing it really helps this community grow. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and right here on YouTube. I'll see you in the next episode of Life Unfiltered.